and welcome to this Excel tutorial on the subtotal function. So what is the subtotal function? This function returns aggregate values for the inputs you supply or the data range you select. And we can also get these aggregate values using special subtotal functions where we can actually choose to ignore hidden rows and get the subtotals of just the unhidden cells alone. Now let's see how to use it. The syntax is equals subtotal, which returns a subtotal in a list or database. Subtotal of, once you open the parenthesis, you will have a list of functions where you can choose, for example, if I want to calculate the average subtotal of score 1. Then I'm going to have to select this one. And if I want to get the count for the range score 1, then I have to use 2. You also have max, min, and other various options. Let me now use the average function. Double-click on it. Our function will calculate the average now, equal to, and now we have to select the range. So here the range is score 1's data, close parenthesis, enter, and the moment you hit enter, I've got the subtotal average as 30. You can also manually check this. Just select the range, and then check whether the average is 30, which is exactly what is shown here. This is nothing but the regular or normal average function. Now you may ask me, what's the difference then in using the subtotal function? So the difference is that you can also say, for example, hide a few rows here. Okay, I've now hidden these rows. And after hiding, I want this result to be updated with the subtotal of only the rows which are visible. Right now it has not changed. So what I have to do is I have to use a different code for the average subtotal instead of 1 here. Let me show you a list of codes available to get subtotals with and without hidden values. This is the list, and if you want to calculate an average while ignoring hidden cells, you'll have to choose 101. Normally, the subtotal functions range from 1 to 11, which by default includes hidden cells as well. Okay, so now here in this scenario, we're going to calculate the average ignoring hidden cells. So we have to use 101. Let me just check it. And the subtotal of 101, comma, the range. It'll also show you this here. Let me just type 101 and then scroll down. It'll show me a whole list of codes which ignores hidden values when calculating the subtotal. And now we press enter, and my result has changed, which means since we have hidden these rows, from 6 to 12, now the subtotal has taken only the average of those numbers which are not hidden, and it is 31, which is shown here. Okay. Now let me unhide the rows. Oops, sorry. Right-click on the row and then click Unhide. So after unhiding, you can see my result is changing again to include all the unhidden rows. So after unhiding, you can see my result is changing again to include all the unhidden rows. And similarly, you can do it for sum, count, and other functions. So let me now select the minimum function, for instance. And let me in fact select the minimum function that does not include hidden data. Okay, for that, I will have to select 105 and then enter. So the smallest data point in this range is 10, We can also easily see this here. And now I'm going to hide the records with 10 and then see my result. You see, I've hidden it here, and for the unhidden rows, the smallest value is 20. Hence, 20 is displayed here. Next, let's see how the subtotal function works when you apply a filter to the selected data. Let me just find out the sum, average, and count of the total score of the students here using the subtotal function. To calculate the sum, we have to type equals subtotal of, for sum it is 9, so 9, comma, and we have to select the range. Here the range is the column total. Select the range and close parenthesis. Hit enter so the sum is now 888. And then average equals subtotal of the average, comma, again select the range, close parenthesis, hit enter, and this is the average. And for the count, subtotal of 2, comma, again the same range, and then enter. So we've now got the sum, average, and count of the total of the students' marks all put together. Now say that I want to see the sum, average, and count of the students from the East region. For that, I'll have to apply a filter, where I'm going to select only the East region, and then click OK. The moment you click OK, you can see that the sum, average, and count have changed depending on the filter you've selected. This is something you can easily do by using the subtotal function without changing the range in the formula again and again. You can also manually check this by just dragging and selecting the range. You can see the sum here is 217. Similarly, the average is 54.25, which is rounded off as 54.3 here, and the count is 4. Okay, now let's try some other filters. Let me select East, North, and then the student's name, 1 or 2 students, and then click OK. And again, the sum is varying accordingly as per your filter selection. And this is how you use filter along with subtotals. Next, we'll see how to use the subtotal function to segregate or categorize the data according to different parameters in the data. For that, we have to use the subtotal function, which is under the Data tab in the Outline group. OK, just click on Subtotal. Now it's automatically selecting this range, but we want the range to be this entire area. For that, what you have to do is just select the data range and then click on Subtotal. Now in this data range, you'll have to choose under what conditions you want the subtotal to occur. The default selection is region, and the region is exactly what we want. Okay, so you have the regions here, and I want to see the subtotal of each region listed here. Okay, so let me select the region here, and then what do we want? Average, sum, count, or max? We want the sum, so select sum, and then which column is the subtotal of? Let's do it for the total column. Okay, it's already selected, and then click OK. The moment you click OK, you can see the grand total is appearing as 888, and now you've got the subtotal for the region separately. For each region, all the scores put together is 217, which is reflecting here. For each region, all the scores put together is 217, which is reflecting here. For the North regions is this, and likewise for the other regions. And now if you would want to see just the grand total alone, What you have to do is you'll have to apply here either grouping options. Just click 1. You just get the final grand total, which is all the scores put together. Now click 2. You get the region-wise subtotal and grand total. If you click 3, you'll get the entire data with the respective subtotals. And this is how you use the subtotal function to group certain values. Say, for example, I want to remove this subtotal option now. For that, again, click on Subtotal, and then click Remove All. Now your subtotal has gone, and the older data is reflecting here. Okay, and one more rule is that whenever you're going to apply a subtotal by selecting the region or something, you will have to always have it in either ascending or descending order. Because if we have mixed regions like east, north, south, whenever there is a region change, subtotal is going to be applied. Okay, let me just jumble it and show you its effect. I've just jumbled a few, and now I'll show you what problem happens when you don't sort it by region. Okay, so I've selected the range subtotal by region, sum, and this is the same. Click OK. Do you see what happens? Just because you didn't sort it by region, whenever there is a change in region, east, north, east, again south, it is taking subtotal for each individual item. So this is why you have to first put it in an ascending or descending order so that it doesn't display multiple subtotals in this way. Now I'm going to remove all. So what you have to do is to avoid this problem, select the data, and then you sort it in an ascending or descending order. Then you go ahead and apply the subtotal. Okay, just because we've ordered the data correctly, therefore, whenever there's a change in the region, the subtotal is reflecting the changes. And that's all about the subtotals. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.